Hello and welcome to Dental Studies Simplified. I am Dr. Ankita Kotecha and today's topic is Classification of Periodontal Diseases 2017. This classification is derived from the World Workshop of Periodontology Proceedings that took place in the year 2017. Broadly, they have classified periodontal diseases as periodontal diseases and peri-implant diseases. Under periodontal diseases, we have three categories: periodontal health, gingival diseases and conditions. Please listen very carefully. This classification looks difficult at first glance, definitely, but it is very simple, very easy once you understand it. The second category is periodontitis and the third category is other diseases or conditions affecting periodontium. They have further subcategories. I will narrate them as well. So the first category has three subcategories: periodontal health, gingival diseases and conditions induced by dental biofilm, and gingival diseases and conditions non-dental biofilm induced. Clear? The three categories under this particular category. Under periodontitis, we have necrotizing periodontal diseases, periodontitis, and periodontitis as a manifestation of systemic diseases. Under other diseases or conditions affecting periodontium, we have five categories. Manifestation of systemic diseases, that is the systemic diseases affecting periodontium, abscesses and endoperio lesions. Then we have mucogingival defects or deformities. We have traumatic occlusal forces, and the last, tooth and prosthetic related factors. Clear? And under peri-implant, we have peri-implant health, peri-implant mucositis, peri-implantitis, and peri-implant soft or hard tissue deficit. This is broadly the newer classification. Now I will highlight the major changes between this 2017 classification and the widely accepted and followed till date classification, that is 1999 by Gary C. Armitage. Clear? The first major changes is here. Periodontitis. Did you not wonder when I mentioned this classification, where has chronic and aggressive periodontitis gone? Yes, they are gone. Periodontitis is the new entity, the single entity which has covered both chronic and aggressive periodontitis. The reason we have already discussed the various conceptual non-linear models of periodontal disease, wherein we understood our deepened knowledge of the understanding of the underlying host microbial interactions, especially the host response, which accounts for the majority of the disease outcome, that is clinical manifestation of the disease. So yes, chronic and aggressive periodontitis are ultimately periodontitis. The chronic and aggressive, the terms, they denote the differences in the host response and not the disease. That is why with this classification coming into effect, it is now accepted that chronic and aggressive periodontitis are not different diseases but different clinical manifestations or different disease representations of the same disease. So the major change is, the noteworthy change in this classification as compared to the 1999 classification is this category, periodontitis. So the terms chronic periodontitis and aggressive periodontitis are now outdated, they are dropped out and they have been regrouped under the single entity term called periodontitis. And this terminology is classified further in terms of staging, grading and extent. This is the first major change and the only noteworthy change. Clear? The second change can be peri-implant diseases inclusion. Inclusion of a category exclusively to the peri-implant health and diseases, which covers peri-implant health, peri-implant mucosa inflammation, that is mucositis, peri-implant related inflammation, so peri-implantitis, and the soft and hard tissue deficits associated with implants. So peri-implant soft and hard tissue deficit. So these are the two major changes to be noted down and have to be remembered very carefully. First is chronic and aggressive periodontitis are dropped out and they have been clubbed together under the single entity term called periodontitis, and second is inclusion of peri-implant health and diseases condition. Clear? So this completes the overall classification. Now we will discuss the talk of the town, that is classification of periodontitis based on staging, grading and extent. So first we will discuss staging. So the main aim of staging is to assess the severity of the disease. So we have certain severity parameters, followed by only assessing the severity will not be a complete answer to our question. There are few factors, few findings which will contribute to make the disease or the case management complicated or difficult. So we have certain complexity factors. And of course, any staging will be completed by understanding the extent of the disease primarily. So we have extent. So by understanding, by assessing these three factors, that is severity parameters, complexity factors and the extent, we will get an answer to our staging. That is, the patient falls in which stage. So there are 4 stages. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I will also discuss simultaneously how to practically perform this assessment. Clear? So under severity we have 3 factors. Severity parameters, that is mainly 3. First is the clinical parameter and it is not probing depth. It is interdental clinical attachment loss. Yes. Till now we were relying on probing depth, but no. Clinical attachment loss gives you a more clear picture of the disease severity. So the first parameter is interdental clinical attachment loss. That is interdental, again the answer is any disease activity begins in the interdental region. That is why we rely on interdental clinical attachment loss, which will give you a more value and indicative of more disease there. So of course it will be the site of highest loss. We will note down only one site which is giving you the maximum value, that is the site with greatest attachment loss. So if that attachment loss is 1 to 2 mm, then it is stage 1. If it is 3 to 4 mm, then it is stage 2, and more than or equal to 5 mm can be stage 3 or stage 4. So practically speaking, first step is full mouth probing to assess the interdental clinical attachment loss, especially at the site with maximum loss, so as to come at or derive our staging. If it is 1 to 2 mm, stage 1, 3 to 4 mm, stage 2, and more than or equal to 5 mm, stage 3 or 4. So now we are confused whether stage 3 or stage 4. We have the next parameter. First parameter is clinical, next parameter is radiographic. So we have to assess the radiographic bone loss in percentage. So if it is less than 15%, stage 1, 15 to 33%, that is coronal 1/3, stage 2, and if it is in the middle third, then it can be stage 3 or 4, anything. Clear? So again we are confused whether stage 3 or stage 4. Stage 3 and stage 4 are still not differentiable. We have a clear picture of stage 1 and 2 but not 3 and 4. So now comes the last and the most important severity parameter. Tooth loss. Mind you, it doesn't look as easy as it seems to be. Tooth loss is not an easy parameter to be assessed, because here we are talking about tooth loss due to periodontal diseases and not any ordinary tooth loss. That is any other reason such as caries, trauma or congenitally missing. And to get an exact accurate answer, we have to be a pro at history taking. We have to assess our patient, asking them repeatedly the reason behind the missing teeth. Okay? And if the answer is periodontal disease, only then it will be documented here. So if no tooth loss, it is stage 1 or 2. But if the tooth loss is up to 4, that is less than or equal to 4 teeth lost due to periodontal disease, it is stage 3, and more than or equal to 5 teeth lost, stage 4. So now we get a clear idea between all the 4 stages, stage 1, 2, 3 and 4. So practically speaking, first step is full mouth probing to assess the interdental clinical attachment loss, especially at the site with maximum loss, which will be recorded here in terms of mm. Second step is full mouth radiographs to assess the radiographic bone loss, less than 15%, 15 to 33% and above 33%. And the third step is note down the missing teeth due to periodontal diseases. Remember this parameter, tooth loss due to periodontal disease and not any other factors. Clear? This completes the staging in terms of assessment of severity. So now we get the picture of the severity of the disease. So now how severe is the disease? So how difficult or easy it will be to manage? This is answered by complexity factors. They are not to be graded. They are just present there or absent there. Their presence will add to the complexity of the management and their absence will make it simpler. Under complexity, for stage 1, we have probing depth less than or equal to 4 mm and horizontal bone loss mostly. So, pretty much manageable by non-surgical periodontal therapy. So, the prognosis is good, easy to enter the maintenance phase. For stage 2, probing depth of less than or equal to 5 mm, again horizontal bone loss. So, prognosis is good because can be managed by mostly non-surgical periodontal therapy. Maybe at times may demand surgical periodontal therapy, but mostly by non-surgical periodontal therapy. And horizontal bone loss, so again prognosis is good, easy to enter the maintenance phase. Now coming to stage 3, the complexity factors are probing depth greater than or equal to 6 mm. 6 mm is the critical probing depth, which is indicative of a surgical therapy. Next we have vertical bone loss. A defect more than or equal to 3 mm. Next is furcation involvement, class 2 or 3, and moderate ridge defect. All the factors are indications of surgical approach, surgical procedures, that is probing depth greater than or equal to 6 mm. So a flap surgery, that is pocket reduction or elimination. Vertical bone loss, so it must be a regenerative procedure. Furcation involvement for class 2, again regenerative procedure. Class 3 may be root resection, hemisection, bicuspidization, anything that is indicated after the assessment of the furcation lesion. Moderate ridge defects invites ridge augmentation procedures. Now all of them are surgical procedures, that is a surgical treatment plan has to be executed here. And so the prognosis will be fair as compared to good when it was stage 1 or 2. Prognosis is fair, the treatment outcomes are pretty much predictable and they have a good enough success rate because the defects, the deficiencies are pretty much fillable. Clear? So the prognosis here we will make it fair and proper evaluation before putting the patient on the maintenance phase. Clear? Coming to stage 4, all these factors of stage 3 plus a complex oral rehabilitation required, that is masticatory dysfunction, severe ridge defects and teeth lost, so less than 20 teeth present, bite collapse, drifting, and etc. So all these factors complicate the disease very much. That is masticatory dysfunction, less than 20 teeth present, severe ridge defects, one more, mobility, grade 2 and above, so secondary trauma from occlusion. These all factors complicate the disease management to a great extent. All the factors of stage 3 plus additional these factors which invites multidisciplinary approach very often. Clear? Although stage 3 may require multidisciplinary approach, stage 4 is a definite indication of multidisciplinary approach very often. So here the prognosis will be poor to questionable, because although surgical procedures will be performed, but the treatment outcomes are unpredictable and the success rate are lesser compared to stage 3. So the prognosis here will again drop down to poor to even questionable, and in severe cases to some extent it will be hopeless as well. So this is how a staging is performed. Practically speaking, first step is probing depth to assess the interdental clinical attachment loss. Second step is full mouth radiographs to assess the radiographic bone loss in percentage. And the third step is note down the number of teeth lost due to periodontal diseases, followed by presence of these complexity factors. If any of these factors are present, it will give you an idea about the severity of the case management. These parameters give the assessment of severity of the disease. This factors gives the assessment of the severity of the case management. So how easy it will be to manage or how difficult it will be. So presence of any of these factors contributes to the complexity of case management. And now the final answer to the staging is extent, that is distribution, which can be a descriptor variable. Clear? So earlier classifications had only two categories for extent: localized, that is less than 30% of teeth involved, or generalized, more than 30% of teeth involved. But remember, in this classification we don't have chronic or aggressive periodontitis. So the classical molar incisor involvement seen in localized aggressive periodontitis is now present here, that is molar incisor involvement pattern, which is now considered as one of the categories of extent, because we don't have those entities as separate but clubbed together as only periodontitis, and that is what we are trying to stage and grade. So in the extent, instead of two categories, we have three categories: localized, that is less than 30% of teeth involved; generalized, that is more than 30% of teeth involved; and the classical molar incisor involvement pattern. So this completes the staging. Stage 1, 2, 3 and 4 under the severity parameters, complexity factors and extent as a descriptor variable. Now we will discuss the grading. So when staging was aimed at assessing the severity of the disease, followed by complexity of the case management and the extent and distribution of the disease, grading is aiming at assessing the rate of disease progression, that is the disease activity, assessing the treatment outcomes, that is responsiveness to our standard therapy, and impact on the systemic health. Clear? So now grading, we have mainly three grades: A, B and C. A is slow rate, B is moderate rate and C is rapid rate of disease progression. For that we have two parameters. One is primary criteria, which helps us get the grade, and the other is secondary criteria, which we may call as disease modifiers or the risk factors. Clear? Under primary criteria we have two options: direct evidence of the progression or indirect evidence of progression. Mainly we should always use direct evidence of the disease progression, that is radiographic bone loss or clinical attachment loss in MM. In grading, it is mm. In staging it was percentage. So here it is mm. Again, it is not ordinary radiographic bone loss assessment. It is bone loss assessment over the period of 5 years. So we should have the assessment of 5 years duration. So if there is no bone loss or attachment loss over the period of 5 years, it is slow rate. If it is 2 mm, that is below 2 mm, then it is moderate rate, and more than or equal to 2 mm is rapid rate over the period of 5 years. This is the main parameter that will give us the assessment of grading. But if unable to assess by direct evidence, we have indirect parameters. First is radiographic bone loss divided by age. And the second is the correlation between amount of deposits and the disease severity. Okay. So radiographic bone loss by age, if this ratio, this value is less than 0.25, it is slow rate. If it is 0.25 to 1, it is moderate rate, and more than 1 is rapid rate. And this, if the deposits are more and disease severity is less, then it is slow rate. If the deposits and the severity correlate fairly enough, then it is moderate rate. And if the deposits are minimal but the disease is severe, then it is rapid rate. So deposits are more but the disease is less severe. Here it is same, deposits and disease. And here deposits are minimal, disease is severe. So this is how you assess the grading. Mainly by direct evidence, that is the radiographic bone loss or clinical attachment loss over 5 years. If it is 0, slow, less than 2 mm, moderate, and more than or equal to 2 mm, rapid. But if unavailable, indirect evidence by radiographic bone loss upon age. So less than 0.25 is slow rate, 0.25 to 1 is moderate rate, and more than 1 is rapid rate. And deposits and severities correlation. If the deposits and disease severity correlate, it is moderate rate. But if there is a discrepancy, that is more deposits but less severe disease, slow rate, and less deposits but rapid disease, so rapid rate. And the last category in grading, we have disease modifiers or risk factors. This classification considers two most common risk factors, that is smoking and diabetes. So if patient is a non-smoker, we will expect slow rate of disease progression. If up to 10, that is less than 10 cigarettes per day, so moderate disease rate, and more than or equal to 10 cigarettes, then rapid rate of disease progression. And for diabetes, if it is normoglycemic or no diagnosis of diabetes, it is slow rate. If it is HbA1c less than 7, moderate rate, and more than or equal to 7, rapid rate. So this is how the classification has taken into consideration the two most common disease modifiers or risk factor, that is smoking and diabetes. So this completes the grading. Primary criteria is direct evidence of the disease progression by radiographic bone loss or attachment loss in mm. If unavailable, indirect measures are radiographic bone loss by age and the correlation between the amount of deposits and the disease severity, followed by assessment of the disease modifiers, mainly smoking and diabetes. Now practically speaking, assessment of primary criteria, we have radiographs and we have the attachment loss already noted down. So from there we can have our grading. If unavailable, then we have radiographic bone loss till date, because this parameter is for up to over the period of 5 years. So if unable to or unavailable, we have radiographs and we have the age of the patient in the history taking. So divide both of them and get a value. If that value falls below 0.25, it is slow rate, 0.25 to 1 is moderate rate, and more than 1 is rapid rate. About deposits and severity, we have already noted down the amounts of deposits. So yes, the correlation can be assessed from their clinical examination. For the disease modifiers, Smoking can be assessed from the habit history taking, and diabetes can be assessed from its medical history taking. So all the answers are hidden in our history taking, and that is why it is time and again emphasized that history taking is the key to appropriate treatment plan and hence the treatment outcomes. Clear? So this completes the latest classification of periodontitis per se, staging, grading and extent. Clear? So I hope this classification is clear to you all. Although it looks difficult at first glance, but trust me, it cannot get simpler than this. This is the simplest classification ever. So please go through it again and again. Once you get the grip of the topic, grip of this classification, then it will be easy to apply in your practicals. Practice it more and more often, then you will be able to understand it thoroughly. Clear? I hope the topic is clear now, but if you still have any doubts or any queries, feel free to ask me in the comment section below or mail me at my email ID dentalstudiessimplified@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and listening to me. Study well, have a good day, stay safe.